So, Tangles is one of those rare animated films that fully justifies why animation can sometimes tell deeply emotional stories better than live action ever could. Directed by Lee Nelson and adapted from Tangles by cartoonist Sarah Levitt, the film transforms a personal story about Alzheimer's family, grief, and identity into something visually inventive, emotionally intimate, and profoundly moving. Premiering at Cannes in the special screening section, Tangle follows Sarah, voiced by Abby Japson, a young queer artist living in San Francisco at the turn of the millennium. While she is building a life for herself surrounded by creativity, activism, friendship, and a budding romance, she slowly begins noticing unsettling behavioral changes in her mother Midge during visit to me back home to Maine. What initially seemed like harmless lapses, forgotten object, misplaced words, sudden irritability gradually reveal themselves to be early signs of Alzheimer's disease. The film's emotional power comes from how honestly it captures the slow devastation of watching someone disappear piece by piece while still physically remaining present. Rather than reducing Alzheimer's to tragedy alone, Tangles carefully explores the emotional confusion, frustration, tenderness, guilt, exhaustion, and love experienced by both the person suffering and the family trying to navigate the decline alongside them. Julia Louis Dreyfus delivers an extraordinary voice performance as Mitch. She captures every stage of the disease with heartbreaking nuance, from a warm, intelligent, emotionally present mother to someone increasingly frightened, angry, vulnerable, and disconnected from herself. Her performance never turned Mitch into a symbol of illness. Instead, she always feels like a complete person fighting to hold on to fragments of her identity as the disease slowly strips them away. At the center of the film, however, is Sarah's emotional journey. Abby Jackson brings tremendous warmth and emotional realism to the role, portraying Sarah as someone constantly pulled between personal freedom and familiar responsibility. Sarah's life in San Francisco feels vibrant and alive. She works at an alternative newspaper, spends times in queer spaces, participates in protests, and slowly falls into meaningful relationship with Donnie Mo, voiced by Samira Willi. Their romance adds a layer of joy and emotional grounding to the story, preventing the film from becoming overwhelmingly bleak. What makes Tangles especially impressive is how the animation itself becomes part of the storytelling rather than just a visual style. The film adopts a loose sketch-like hand-drawn aesthetic inspired by Sarah's own artwork. Most of the visuals remain monochromatic, but bursts of color suddenly appear during moments of memory, emotional intensity, imagination, or fear. This allows the film to visually express emotions and mental states in ways live action likely could not. As Midge Alzheimer's worsens, the animation subtly shifts with deteriorating mental state. Memories blur, environments distort, and surrey imagery begins intruding into everyday scenes. At times, the film becomes almost nightmarish, reflecting Sarah's own emotional exhaustion and anxiety. One recurring gag involving airplane announcement voicing Sarah's darkest thoughts is both funny and painfully honest, perfectly capturing how caregiving stress invades every corner of life. The supporting cast also helps ground the film emotionally. Cranston voiced Sarah's father Rob with quiet tenderness, portraying a husband trying desperately to stay practical while slowly losing the woman he loves. Beanie Felston as Sarah's younger sister Hannah adds warmth and realism to the family dynamic, showing how differently each family member process grief and responsibility. Importantly, Tangles never become emotionally manipulative. The film understands that living with Alzheimer is not a constant state of tragedy. There are still moments of laughter, absurdity, connection, and tenderness mixed into the pain. The family continues living even while mourning someone who has not fully left yet. That emotional complexity is what makes the story feel so authentic. The queer elements of Sarah's life are also beautifully integrated into the narrative. Her sexuality is never treated as a separate issue from the main story, but rather as a natural part of who she is. The film quietly explores how Sarah balances building her own identity and future while also being pulled back into her family's emotional crisis. By the end, Tangle becomes less of a story about death and more of a story about memory, connection, and emotional endurance. It acknowledges how devastating Alzheimer's can be without losing the sight of love that survives inside those painful experiences. Leah Nelson's debut feature is visually inventive and emotionally intelligent, deeply human. Through stunning animation, remarkable performance, and honest storytelling, Tangle transforms an intensely personal memoir into a universally moving mediation on family, caregiving, identity, and grief. It's heartbreaking, yes, but also warm, funny, and compassionate, and ultimately life affirming in a quiet and powerful way. Thank you for watching. Bye.